I want to start by saying that like everybody here knows the feeling too well. Like that specific disappointment that your VP of sales about like 24 hours after a major event, the sales team's like buzzing, they're hungry for leads, and marketing teams are stuck messaging them like, yeah, just working on that Excel spreadsheet, trying to dedupe contacts and importing. So like if anyone has been in that feeling and looking for an exit, this is what we're here to talk about today. My name is Salim Alouf. I'm director of marketing here at Harvest ROI. We're a Diamond solution partner, and I'll be your moderator today. And joining me are two guys who are actually solving this problem in the HubSpot ecosystem.
Guys.
Yeah.
Let's go. What's up, Salim?
So,
how you doing, man?
Doing well. We have Max Cohen, director of product at Happily, formerly known as Event Happily, and Justin Givens from simpleevents.io. Yeah. How are we doing today?
Man, you wouldn't believe the energy that's flowing through me right now, just having you two on screen right now. Like, yeah, I'm so, dude. And first off, thank you to Harvest ROI. Big shout out to them for organizing this, putting this together, because all you that are joining are going to win, because it's going to be a lot of information.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to admit,
are spiked right now. Absolutely spiked.
I have to admit, when we're setting this up and checking if you guys were interested in being featured together, it was a long shot, but it worked. So I'm glad to be here with you today.
A long shot or the easiest yes you ever could have gotten?
I was genuinely surprised. I was genuinely surprised. So
that's awesome.
That's the thing. You guys forget we're buddies. Without
further ado, welcome everyone to our webinar. As I mentioned, we have the team from Happily and from Simple Events with us. If you don't mind going to the first slide with our first question of the day, which is the registration. Right now, the industry standard is to run your event on a third-party island. People register there. Then we just cross our fingers and hope the integration passes data back to HubSpot. If your data lives on an island, you're working with one hand tied behind your back. So let's talk about establishing a single source of truth. And I would like to open it to anyone here.
Not a good time to live on an island, that's for sure. 100%.
We all have this tool called HubSpot. This is why we're here, but yet we're going to go to an island and not use any of the tools that we have at our fingertips.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No.
So when a team does choose an external tool over a native HubSpot, workflow for event registration, what is the immediate cost to their data architecture? How do they end up establishing a single source of truth to fix that friction?
Yeah. Justin, can I give some thoughts on this? And then I want you to slam dunk alley-oop it.
Let's go.
I think that the big thing with registrations, right, and the big fundamental flaw of kind of like HubSpot out of the box, which again, it wasn't built to be an event management tool. Like, that's fair. It shouldn't be. It's a CRM platform, customer experience, marketing, whatever. I don't know what it is today. But the big thing with like registrations and using third-party apps that do event registration, right, is that they've always had this like fundamental flaw in the way that they represent that data within HubSpot, right? For the longest time, and I still think like 90% of the time it's still true today, like most of those integrations that you see with third-party like point solutions for event management stuff, the way they represent just the idea of like what is a registration is generally just by piping in a couple of contact properties that say latest event.
They get replaced every event too.
Exactly, right? And like it's tough because like it's just bad data practice, right? Like, Justin, you are Justin. You are a human being. You have properties about you, right?
Thank you, Max.
That one time you went to an event is not a defining quality for you that should sit on your contact record in one place forever, right? Like the big thing that like a lot of these other apps like don't take into consideration is that the idea of like a registration is that it is its own entity. It's its own thing that exists at a single point in time and has its own quality and characteristics, just like a contact in HubSpot has its own properties, right? What event was it for? Who was it? What selections did they make for their t-shirt and their lunch choice and their this and their that? All things that if it just gets, gone in an instant, the next time they go to another event, it doesn't make sense, right? So like, yeah, registrant stuff should be represented in HubSpot, but it should be represented properly, right? It should be its own record. It should be its own thing, right? And it should be separate from the idea of like, what is a contact? Like a registration is a fundamentally separate thing. But yeah.
Well, and that goes into the exact same way HubSpot's structured. We have deals. We're not updating the last deal value or only putting the line items on a contact record and having to change those out every time. So think about it in that way, folks, is that when you use an external tool, right, are they not using native HubSpot tools and native objects to then enrich your CRM? Because when I register for an event, that's a timeline activity. It's at this moment of time I registered. How many times have you had your CMO come to you and say, hey, where did all those leads come from? Oh, it was on this external tool, so they don't track UTM parameters, but we sent all the emails through HubSpot, but we don't really know who was influenced because this integration didn't do anything except for, say, registered.
Yeah.
So when you use HubSpot forms, our goal is to enrich that customer through a life cycle journey. So you can ask those leading questions, and guess what? You don't have to duplicate everything in an external tool to then turn around and say, oh my gosh, I didn't map that field and we launched that other event. And guess what? All this data is wrong.
Yeah.
So when you use a native form, when you use HubSpot, and even if you're got a great developer team and you're enriching a HubSpot form, that's awesome. But you got to keep the timeline true to the source, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too is all these external tools promote their tools, not your brand.
Correct.
So we're not even talking about landing pages here.
Unless you buy
tools,
the enterprise version that's white labeled.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Well, no, but I'm not even saying let's talk about Eventbrite. They don't even give you an option to white label anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about landing pages, I can't even run an A/B test to see what's going to drive better conversions because these other tools don't have that capability. Or if I do, now I have to get really creative. Now I've got all these different systems. Instead of going literally, I would say through both of our platforms, within a couple minutes, everything is stood up. And it's all in the favorite tool that you live in. I will tell you from a personal use case, when you stay in one tool, you can execute a lot faster, a lot cleaner, and you're going to have a lot better data anyways, right?
Yeah.
So you're not losing functionality. You're gaining historical data that's going to be business level, that when your VP of sales says, hey, the event's over, where's my list? You can be like, here's the segment, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go. What are you waiting on? Or actually, because we have Sales Hub Enterprise, enroll them in the outbound sequence because you know they attended the event. Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
You're not having to worry about this delay of let me see who came. Let me fix this column. Let me go to the import. Oh, wait a minute. I have to go to this meeting. Let me go to the import. Oh, wait, I've got this other meeting. Oh, wait. It never happens. Right?
Yeah.
So the registration should be live. It should be real time, and it should always be enriching your contacts. But like Max said, it should never be, the contact property should never be your source of truth.
Yeah.
These timeline events is what's going to drive your business, because how many times have we built workflows, Max, back in the day? Hey, if this value changes, increment the number of events registered, or increment the number of events, like whenever contact property of last event registered. We don't have to do that when we use objects correctly. And that's literally what people think. Oh, I'll just use Eventbrite or I'll use these other tools because they're just going to handle the registration, but they don't think about the operational weight and the heaviness that comes later down the road and all the things they lose.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of operational weight, I do want to touch back again later on using events to trigger workflows inside of HubSpot. But honestly, my favorite and closest, dearest to heart slide is our next slide, which is somewhere I've spent too much time in the past while trying to manage events, which is the CSV upload. We all know the pain. Post-event, like spreadsheets are just flying around between teams. But beyond the fact that it's a manual process and it kind of wastes time, what are you actually losing when relying on like delayed data transfers and like something that's not fully automated?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's going to be situations like you're never not going to like never upload a CSV file ever again in your life, right? But it shouldn't be something that's required for things such as registration and attendance, right? Like that stuff can be so much easier, right? As long as you had like, you know, an app that actually is like built to put that data into HubSpot the correct way, right? Which is stuff that both our tools do. You know, the CSV upload, it's interesting. There's a couple of different places we see it, right? Like oftentimes we'll have folks come to us that say like, oh, we've got, you know, a list of people who registered, and then we have a list of people who attended, and it's because they used that spreadsheet to actually take the attendance, and like that's a really bad experience, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this have gone through that, right? You know, never mind the spreadsheet from hell that I know a lot of people out there have that they're using to try to like somehow, you know, reverse engineer quantum physics to measure whatever the ROI is of their event, right? Like, newsflash, it's way easier to do it.
I've ran those Excel sheets.
Yeah. But then, you know, another context that we see them a lot is like when folks go to events where they're not necessarily like hosting the event, but they're actually like attending it, like a trade show, right? Fun fact, one of the whole reasons of why we actually have this whole like lead capture part of our product stemmed from a conversation I had with Mr. Salim a very long time ago, right? When when I showed you what we did for Event Happy, and you're like, this is cool, but like none of my customers actually host their own events. They all go to trade shows and they capture leads, and I go, whoa, yeah, you're right. Right. And so we ended up building that, which is really cool. But, you know, like people will get lists from trade shows. They'll get lists ahead of trade shows, right? And there's always stuff you can do with it, but it should not be the one thing that enables you to say, did this person go to this event or not, right? Because you only have two really bad options when you're dealing with a list import, right? And you're not using like a purpose-built event management tool in HubSpot. It's, I could either upload that the data from that into some complicated contact property, or I can eat up one of my, you know, limited amount of lists that I can create, and it just sits there forever with a list that has very limited use, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to access, right? You can't see what lists people are on very easily from contact records.
Right, but Max, so we can use import history, right? And name it perfectly, so we never have to do these things, right? And it's, again, this all goes back to, hey, cool. Hey, Max went to this event 2 years ago. Did he get a deal created in the last 2 months? I don't know. Let me go find what import he was a part of and what segment he was a part of. Again, there is a use for CSVs. It's, I never have told anybody you need to move away completely from that, because I think one of the great tools that you can do is historical data now with both of our tools, going back and enriching. Hey, I know this event happened last year, but it's actually valuable to my sales team because we use a third-party tool. That's okay, cool. But I need to get it back in. Let's import it, make sure the lists are correct, but then set all these parameters about when the event was. So then it actually pushes it back in time, right? Yeah. That kind of information is huge, because now we're not dealing with a delay from check-ins. We're not dealing with a delay from registrations, all right? We're actually able to then create a better, what I would call overarching experience, right? We know and love HubSpot. We use workflows inside and out. Why do I have to use some other email tool to then communicate with them from a follow-up standpoint, right? And that goes right back into what happens before and after the badge scan for our next slide. Literally, when you're running these third-party tools outside that don't literally natively integrate with HubSpot, you're losing metrics. And people are like, well, I don't care about my email metrics. You should. You need to know, because if you're not running A/B tests on these subjects for show up rate, you're losing a chance to actually perfect what's the best for your audience. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, well, I'll just use the industry standard. No, you need to be testing, always testing these subject lines to get people to show up to your event, no matter if it's a virtual event, no matter if it's an in-person event, right?
Yeah.
That sequence needs to stop instantly the moment they're checked into the event. Just like y'all checked into the StreamYard today. Stop all outbound messaging for pre-event registration and show up rate, right?
Yep.
Flip them over into delay until 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Kick off the workflow now for, hey, you attended. Let's chat, right? No delay. Meg and the whole Harvest team knows exactly who showed up, what happened, where it happened. And now we have actually timeline at records, right? There's this whole, like, one of the cool things, and I know Max's tool does this too, both with Event Happily and Simple Events. The moment the badge is scanned, triggering a workflow. So let's think this. You're running an event. You've got your own big in-person event. You've got a sales team of 25 people. All right. Your sales reps need to know when Meg shows up when she checks in, right? We all use the HubSpot notification, we can use the HubSpot app that's on our phones. Boom, workflow. At the moment they become registered and marked as attended, meaning they're checked in, kick off to the owner an in-app notification saying, boom, Meg just checked in. Go meet him at the front desk.
Yeah.
Meg can be like, oh, dude, Max, what's up, man? Come on in. Let me show you where you're sitting. What kind of level of experience you're missing when we have to wait? Let me go find Meg, someone at the registration booth. It's really uncomfortable. Meg could be in the middle of a conversation. Like, it drives me mad that we think, oh, it will just be faster. Let me just, no, we need to focus on the customer experience. That's what's going to move the needle for sales.
Yeah.
Always.
You also brought up something, Justin, when you were talking about email, that I think like HubSpot, just in the way it's built, is like really uniquely set up to do very well. I'm sure at this point, most people have run into the idea of like custom events, which is also just, I hate that it's called that, because like a custom event and not in HubSpot is not a marketing event, nor is
calm
it
down,
like an event
calm
event,
down.
Right. But custom events, those things that tell you like when something happened, right? Someone opened an email, someone like, clicked a certain button, someone did this, someone did certain that. Apps like ours send in, and I'm pretty sure you guys do this too, app events, right? Yep. That like tell you when someone like registered, and those things can be used in journey analytics, right? So like, if you're an event marketer that really cares about like how your invite email strategy is actually getting people into the door, you're at a very unique point of HubSpot's history where like using apps like ours can help you actually make a journey. What do they call them? Like journey analytics now, or
journey reporting, I believe.
Yeah, journey reporting.
Journey reports. Sankey charts, yeah.
Yeah, Sankey charts. How many people were sent the email? How many people received the email? How many people opened the email? How many people clicked the link? How many people registered? How many people showed up? How many people had a deal open for them after? You can literally build that stuff now in HubSpot, right? Thanks to things like app events, right? And stuff like that. And that's not something you're going to be able to do in a third-party app like an Eventbrite, because all that data is siloed away from all that other data you need in HubSpot to be able to build reporting and automation like that, right?
Now, hold on. Before you move, here's the key. Why didn't they click the button? What happened? Now you started seeing numbers to then perfect the funnel. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of people are like, hey, I had 30 show up. Cool. What happened to the other 75 that click the button?
Yeah.
What was it? Right. And that's where a lot of people don't think,
I don't know.
Hey, I'm okay not knowing that. Really?
Yeah.
Then why are you using HubSpot?
Yeah. The seed that I want to plant in everyone's mind, just real quick before we move forward, Salim, is while we said at the beginning of this, HubSpot was not built to be an event management platform. It quite literally has the potential to be like one of the best out there just because of the data that already lives in there. Right? Like, events are intimately connected to your customer service efforts, your marketing efforts, your sales efforts, all things that HubSpot does really, really well. And you use HubSpot as your central record of truth for all that kind of stuff, right? Events touches all of it, right? So there's a lot of cool things you can do because of that when you get the data in there smartly, right? Sorry, let's go on.
Yeah. Actually, we kind of segued into our next question, which is, the question that a lot of CFOs have on their mind, which is, are we attributing our event marketing and figuring out if we're actually increasing our pipeline and making money? Or is this just, a little bit of time of vacation for our reps? That way they can travel to some city and, have some fun. That is a burning question.
Let them have their fun, obviously. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't that what inbound is?
Let him hit up a Buffalo Wild
Justin, don't
Wings
tell anyone.
from now and
No.
again.
Inbound.
All right. Yeah.
Nobody talks about inbound, but like, how are we providing? How are we providing this level of insight to our team to know if our event strategy is working or not?
Yeah, and that goes back to I love it. Me and Max and George B. Thomas, if you don't know him, went on a huge riff about campaigns, right? And it's in the Sidekick Strategies podcast. Good source of information there. George is amazing, very smart guy. People aren't utilizing campaigns enough in their marketing efforts. I'm sorry. They think it's just like, okay, cool, I'll tag a landing page or I'll tag some emails. One of the big things that a lot of people miss out on is when they run an event is this question: what events worked last year? Which ones didn't? And when we're not using campaign analytics, because we can look at an event and see very high level, especially with both of our tools, how many registered, how many showed up. Great. That's not the analytics I'm talking about. I'm talking, let's dive into how many deals, how many opportunities were created, right? How many did we lose, and what events did they come to that we could retweak to have a better closing? Okay. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes it might take, and here's the better question: are we running one event and closing them, or is it taking 4 events or 3 events? And how does that compare to, say, pre-COVID? And I'm going to throw that out there. Post-COVID to now, right? When we're not analyzing enough, and this is why we have HubSpot. Again, it goes back to, we want all this data. This is why we got HubSpot in the first place, right? But we're not making the business decisions off of, and I hear this way too many times with my clients and even in just other HubSpotters. Well, I'm just going to do what I did last year. Why? And they can't answer why.
Because it feels good.
Because it's comfortable. That's the problem. It's comfortable.
There's a question that
Justin.
There's a question that I've always had, which is, why are we going to this specific event? Yeah. And every single time I hear, because everybody else is going.
Yeah. Yeah, but imagine if someone would ask you that, and you can turn around and say, oh, well, because we captured this many leads and our ROI was through the roof and we closed X amount of deals because of it. Right? Like, folks, you aren't that, it is not that many steps to get there. Right? Like, think about it. The big question I get from a lot of people that relates to this is like, they go, hey, how can we measure the ROI of our events inside of HubSpot, the return on investment? Now, investment means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but luckily, since HubSpot is so flexible, and that's the beauty of like building your event management strategy on HubSpot, is that you can kind of make like that idea of investment mean kind of like whatever you want and track it at varying levels of specificity, right, or even broadness, right? So I'll give you an example. A really cool thing that we have is we have this right now. It's a workflow action. We're about to move it to like settings inside of like our actual app itself. But we have a workflow action that will automatically attribute deals back to your event records. So like when you go and have an event, you host an event, you go to a trade show and capture a bunch of leads, like whatever your flavor of event is, we automatically look at new deals that are getting created. And if the contacts or people at that company associated to the deal, you can kind of tweak it however you want, right? If those people attended events, were captured as leads at events, or even just registered for an event, like you can choose how you set the model up. And if it's like most recent event, first event, if you're a first touch, last touch kind of team, right?
All that good stuff.
What we'll do is we'll automatically associate your deals without any intervention by your sales reps or asking them to have to go do it. We'll automatically associate those deals back to your event record, right? Now, what some people do, because that helps you like see, hey, what's the return? Like when you think HubSpot, like return in the most basic general sense is usually represented by revenue, deals, right? That's generally the R, right? The tough part is that the I is usually not living in the same place, right? But since it's HubSpot, you can easily get the I to live on those event records as well. So like what we see people do, sometimes it'll be something just as basic as having like our standard sort of like event cost field where you can put in your sort of rough dollar amount of what you spent on your event, right? Some people go even crazier and say like, hey, I want like line items and like all this other crazy stuff. And they'll do like a custom object called event expenses, right? And all this other stuff. I think now we can even do line items, which is really cool. But they'll keep track of what they're spending on their event, right? And what's cool about that is when you have the R and the I in the same place, I'm coining this term. This is a Chris Carolyn original thought, by the way. When you have the R and the I in the same place, it all of a sudden becomes trivially easy to manage and report and measure the ROI of your events. Because you can say, hey, we got this much revenue, we spent this much on it, and one or two calculated fields later with whatever formula we want in there to measure your ROI, all of a sudden we have ROI at the event level. And then since all that stuff is properly represented in the object data structure, it's really easy to build dashboards and reports that show you ROI across all of your events or specific sets of events that you're doing or types of events that you do, all because you're building it in HubSpot. This is not something you could do in another app that doesn't have access to all this data, right? So yeah, huge opportunity there for folks to really, like, if you want to dial in like your ROI, there's
get out of
ways
Excel.
to do it. Get out of Excel. Get out of the spreadsheet from hell and get into your HubSpot record from hell too. But
right.
Of course, we'll help you out.
Calm down, Max. Calm down. I love it. I love the energy, man.
As you can see, our guests are very passionate about event management in HubSpot.
Fired up, ready to go.
So we've spent the past 30 minutes kind of tearing down the old way of managing events. I believe everybody's bought into the idea that like we should manage our events in HubSpot, but teams vary in sizes and bandwidth, and there are distinct approaches depending on the teams on how they want to approach this event management inside of HubSpot. I want to open the floor for both of you, since both of you are part of and have event management apps. Philosophies might differ in some places. So I wanted you to make the case for like, who is this for? My version of event management, who is this for? And the other's version, who is this for?
I like it. Max, you want to dive in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always, someone who's going to say like, oh, if you run events on HubSpot, or if you run events and you use HubSpot, you're a good fit for our app, right? I think like one of the big things that like we try to do is give folks like complete control over the data structure and like keep it flexible enough where like if your event management strategy is a little bit weird, you can build that weirdness into it, right? And that's the one thing that I've learned.
No one runs a weird event.
Yeah, dude. Literally everyone runs events differently, and it's really annoying. That's the one thing that I've learned, like being in the event management space. Sure, everybody has something that rhymes with registration and attendance tracking and lead capture. Everyone does some kind of version of that, and then everything on the back end is completely different, right? Which is why it's beautiful to build it in HubSpot, but it's also why like we leverage custom objects. We're really big on the whole custom objects thing. We'd love to move to app objects one day if they could just get up to snuff with custom objects, right? But so we try to give you complete control over your data structure in HubSpot. We've got tools that help you run your registration, run your attendance tracking through these different apps that we have. We also have this really cool like event lead capture badge scanning app, right? So like if you're a company that goes to a bunch of different trade shows, we have some customers that just do this. They go, oh, we go to 140 trade shows a year. And I go, that sounds super exhausting, but I'm sure it's really painful getting that data into HubSpot. And they go, yeah, it's really bad, right? So
I've been on a team that had an event a week. And
yeah, if you're sick of like importing spreadsheets and like holding a business card in one hand and typing with the other out of the 100 in the fishbowl that you got after the event, right? You can easily just like scan a badge, We'll enrich it. We'll send it right into HubSpot on the contact record. We'll even help you send like an AI automated email to them to follow up with your meeting link. You can book meetings from it. You can do a lot of cool stuff, right? But we're catered towards either like, hey, you either manage and host your own events and you have like some complexity there, or you attend trade shows, or you do a mix of both and you need it all to work together in the same ecosystem, right? But yeah, that's Event Happily.
Yeah,
or Happily
yeah,
now.
and I love that.
To that. Yep.
Because the way Max said, every person runs their event differently, right?
Yeah.
So Simple Events, its motto is, this will be weird, simple. So get rid of all the complexity, get rid of all this crazy, like, and I love the way Event Happily has set up speakers, sponsors, all these objects there. And again, it's perfect for that. And I've driven so many people to, you need to go look at Event Happily, right? Simple Events, complete opposite. I need all my data in HubSpot. I don't need custom object requirements from a hub standpoint. All right. So that means free, professional, whatever you have, even starter can even use Simple Events. But its goal is to drive your events in the simplest form, but you're using everything out of the box, HubSpot. So yes, it's technically, quote unquote, an external tool, right? But everything we do lives in your HubSpot. Okay. Yeah. So with that, the gear and the total focus is we run in-person and virtual events. You got QR code capability. You've got the whole link tracking to know who joined, who didn't join. On that side, I've seen one person manage 1,000 events in Simple Events over the course of 2 years. All right. And yeah, crazy. With that same side, I've seen a team of one run 12 events very easily, one a month, and keep it all sane, where they don't actually they don't need another team, right? Because the complexity is there. It's rinse and repeat. Let's keep going forward. The beauty thing is, you can use Simple Events for conferences, but it's nothing to the level of what Event Happily has. And that's exactly what theirs is great for. Hey, I want to run a booth. I'm at this trade show. Cool. You can use Simple Events to check in people coming into your booth, get them set up the follow-up processes, right? Again, we like less is more complexity, less complexity, but I do know there is a value for complexity when we need it, right? Mm-hmm. So from a reporting expectation, everything lives in HubSpot. There's not the data you can't get out of it. It's just the marketing events object, as me and Max will have probably 600 more conversations down the road. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it does have everything you need, and it just takes a little finagling to get the report to the T, right?
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to call out, like with both of these apps, like your data belongs to you. It is your data. It's not our data. It is your event data, right? Like even if you were to leave, Happily or leave Simple Events, like your marketing events are still there. Your event records are still there. Your registrant data is still there. Like you
don't have to do a max export to say what happened.
Exactly. Right. You're not screwed. And I think I just want to also mention, just to mention, we're both external apps. Yes, we're both external apps. The big difference is Simple Events and Event Happily was built for HubSpot from the ground up, right? Whereas, when you look at the Eventbrites of the world and the insert other third-party app for event management here, their integration was to check a box for a marketing exercise, right? Yeah. Not built to work in the very special and super awesome, fun, nuanced, weird ways that HubSpot works, right? We built our apps both having the deepest understanding of the weirdness that HubSpot can be, right? And how to actually build, an event management tool that makes sense, right? And doesn't fall into the same common pitfalls that all the other ones do, right? Yeah. So that's a huge difference by itself. Yeah.
Speaking of the way that HubSpot works in nuanced ways, I want to talk a little bit more about the event, the event object, and how much it's progressed, and what are the most interesting ways you are seeing people use the new and updated events object to kind of house all of their event data.
Are you referring to marketing events or app
Correct.
Events?
Marketing event.
Okay. So
because I know marketing events were lackluster in the past, and they've come a long way.
Also generous.
Oh, very generous. In the past, So today, it's still not the perfect set. And here's a perfect example. Not every event do I have a registered or an attended state. Well, the marketing participant that's associated with marketing events is capped to that. So in like custom build outs like Event Happily, you could say, no, I just want to have a checked in state because they came to my booth, right? We can't customize that, right? So it's literally attended, registered, no shows. They don't even have a canceled state.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't like associate other objects to it yet either. I think that's coming.
Yeah, trust me. I've tried, Max.
I think it's coming though. So I've been the biggest hater of the marketing events object for so long, just because like I had to deal with it doing HubSpot implementations where they're just like, how does this work? And even me, the implementation specialist, was like, I don't really know. It seemed like kind of a mistake, to be honest with you. And it was like that for years. Now the team that's taken over is actually doing something to it, which is awesome. Like they got a good team behind it now, right? Which is fantastic. And I think the most recent update they did is they finally brought the UI up to the standard that we're all used to with other objects, which is great. The problem is a lot of the backend data structure is still the same, right? Like you can't associate it to whatever you want. It's not going to have all the same features as like a first class object would, right? Yeah. But baby steps. This is a very complex and complicated and like not so fully baked object that has lived kind of dormant inside of HubSpot for years.
Well, I think since inception, honestly.
Dude, it wasn't in the nav for 3 years, like 4 or 5 years.
No, but it existed.
It existed. You had to find it through an index page, right? Kind of crazy. But I think they're finally starting to give it the love it needs. And like, we would love to use it eventually, obviously, right? And like, we're trying to think of like creative ways that we could do sort of like a lighter weight version on it that like isn't so dependent like on our custom objects and stuff like that. So we're thinking about that, right? But it's definitely moving in the right direction finally, which is cool. But I mean, Justin,
because they're even adding
more
in
nuanced
workflows.
Insight on it than I do, because I've just been pretending it doesn't exist for so long, right?
So they've added here in the last, say, 12 months, the ability to manually import registered information and attended information, which is great, honestly. Great, because you're enriching your HubSpot with this time level data, right? It's still a manual lift because you have to go put in date and times. Again, it's really complex, it's really slow from that standpoint. On the flip side, they're coming out with workflows.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
They launched a register for marketing event one, right?
Okay, I'm not in it.
Okay, it might be in like a beta, but I remember seeing it on Monday.
It is in private beta, yeah.
It is. Private beta. No, it's live now, folks. It is out there. Right? But again, really cool. If you've got a really customized process, you don't need Event Happily or Simple Events. You can now use these workflows to trigger things. Okay. So they're upping the game, which is awesome, but it won't give you, and I've heard this directly from the source. They're not going to generate QR codes for your event. They're not going to give you an app that's going to check people in. Right.
Yeah.
So like if you're just enriching HubSpot with event information, perfect. You can solve but if you're running events, the marketing object is more of a holding cell, not like a full-on execution cell.
Yeah. Okay? It was like originally built to be like an integration object for things like Zoom and like other webinar applications that would sync information into it. The problem is like that data was not so accessible and like not really easy to play with, right? And worked very differently than other objects did. But I think now also recently they gave you the ability to like manually update a status of a event participant, right? But like you have to go onto the contact record and find it and flip it.
And add the card, right? On the right-hand side.
Yeah. Like you're never going to take attendance at your event that way, guys. I'm very sorry. Like stick to your spreadsheet, honestly, if that's all you have at that point.
If you are taking attendance that way, we need to increase your attendance rate then.
Yeah. If you can manage it at that, it's a bigger problem.
Yeah. Guys, it's been wonderful. I want to open it up to Q&A. So anyone attending, if you have any questions for Max or Justin, please leave them in the comments. While we get that up and running, I wanted to ask you specifically about, we focused a lot on like in-person events. What are some of the nuances that kind of change slightly when we're talking about virtual events run through a platform like this one, StreamYard or Zoom or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So the biggest gotchas that you got to think about is all these webinar platforms, even StreamYard, can handle registration, right? But should you use their registration? And my philosophy over at Simple Events is to keep it simple. Keep it in your HubSpot form, keep it in HubSpot first, and then push everybody to the platform at the time of the event. Why do I need to know if the event's in 2 months that it's on Zoom? I don't. I need to show up and know where to join, right? That's more important, right? And really cool thing is that Zoom can enrich your HubSpot too. So having these platforms sit in front of the event webinar itself will then make sure your data is clean, as well as enriching if that app has a good integration with HubSpot. So Zoom's a good example. Hey, when did this person join and leave and so forth? Because you can use a workflow after a form submission to push them into the registered object of Zoom. So then they're going into the webinar flow, but they never saw the Zoom webinar registration page, right? Yeah. Why does the customer even need to know that? They don't. And that's honestly the biggest thing that's different is you've got to run good virtual events, right? It can't just be, hey, come listen to me talk for 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be targeted. People like in-person events because they know they're going to get a human interaction, right? When it goes to virtual, if it's not engaging, if it's not driving a clear hero's journey, what's my outcome from attending this, then what's the point of running the event, right? And a lot of people just say, well, I got to keep doing virtual events, but I don't know the success of them because we're not tracking and we're not looking at that data. We're almost scared to go back and say, maybe I should stop doing that style of event. It's not turning, going back to Max, ROI. It's not turning anything but sucking life out of my team, right?
Yeah. So, that hits close to home to us. We've revamped our event strategy for 2026. We've parsed through that data and figured out what is working, what is not working. So anyone here attending, we would love your feedback on today's session. That will help us put together more events in the future similar to this one. But yeah, I agree. The visibility that we got for using, I'm not going to say whose app, but one of your apps to run our previous events has given us the data to judge, all right, these types of topics don't work. These types of topics do. When we have guests, when we don't have guests, etc. That was invaluable for our new event strategy.
That's awesome. And like the webinar stuff is really interesting. So like we happily we don't ever want to be like a digital event platform. Like we don't want to go out and be like a Goldcast or something like that, right? But we want to be able to make sure that like you can sort of bring your digital event platform of choice, because a lot of that is like the experience that you give someone online, right? Like there's Zoom, and then there's like real like digital event platforms, right? Which is like the webinar or like, you know, trade show on steroids.
C-Vent,
like, yeah. Like, you know, think of, you know, when they did HubSpot, you know, virtually, things like that. Like those are like digital events. What's fun is like when we built Happily, and we still have it today, we have a native integration with Zoom, right? So like if you register, you know, for a Zoom webinar, we even let you use Zoom meetings, right? Like you'll see those registrants inside of HubSpot, right? You'll see their attendance get tracked, things like that. But again, leaning on why HubSpot is so freaking cool. I don't know if anyone follows like HubSpot's Zapier integration. Right. So like HubSpot did a recent update to their Zapier integration that allowed Zapier to better manipulate and update and create custom objects in HubSpot. Right. Yeah. So what's pretty cool is through 2 Zaps, if you're using a digital event platform that it has like a new registrant created and a registrant attended action on Zapier, which is like the bare minimum that like almost all of these digital event platforms, including StreamYard, including like some of these other ones have, right? what's really cool is that you can easily connect that in and create registrants in HubSpot, update them when they attend your event, and like change their status and all that stuff with like literally 2 zaps that work across everything, which is really cool. So like we kind of like accidentally stumbled upon that when we were setting up some stuff like for some of our own events that we were doing. And then we're like, wow, we integrate with basically anything now. This is great as long as they're Zapier. But we're looking into some other stuff. Like there's these like helper workflow actions that we want to build that would like piggyback off of like native HubSpot integrations that like, kind of do it the bad way, right? Where it's just like, here's an attended event field and a registered event field, and like using that in like, cool ways to do the same thing. But yeah, digital events, they rock. They're a snap. You should get that data into HubSpot in a good way. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, Cynthia is asking, does HubSpot integrate with GoToWebinar? I believe most of the big webinar platforms have integrations in the app marketplace, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on like where specifically those fall short and why we end up coming back to solutions like yours.
The biggest thing is where the registration process lives and the tools that we don't have access to when we use third-party tools to run the entire platform. So specifically things like Zoom, GoToWebinar, a lot of people are like, well, cool, I want to set up a recurring webinar that happens once a month that people can join. Well, I don't want to build the workflows to actually offer those properties, right? So then they just get lazy and they'll just use this third-party tool to run the registration in the lead funnel. Well, at that point, now you're losing all your tracking, right? Because now, hey, maybe, because we have analytics on all of our web pages because of the HubSpot tracking code. Hey, they visited it, but they didn't register. Let me put them in a different sequence or a different workflow to really maximize like, hey, what was it? What event? Okay, I emailed you 3 times. Last email is the breakup as always, but then say, what event are you looking for? You came to it. What do you want us to do? Right? What do you want us to talk? And they're missing that, because when we put the button that says go to meeting, go to Zoom registration page, we don't know the analytics from that point, and you're losing business level data. Now, can it be overwhelming when you're running all these events and it's like, oh, I don't even have a chance to look at it? You've got to set time aside to plan and strategize for the next series. And if you're not looking at that data, then you're failing on that side.
Yeah. Awesome. And so two things for the person who is interested in that. HubSpot does have like a native GoToWebinar one, right? It's going to leverage the marketing events tool and send data over. But then Zapier also works with it too as well, which again, with HubSpot's newer custom object support, that type of integration becomes way more valuable than it was before, which is sweet. So yeah.
Yep. We have another question here from Kurt. Once leads are in HubSpot, how are teams currently attributing which specific webinar drove a closed deal?
Oh, great question, Kurt. And that goes back to, instead of using properties, you're using individual events, timelines. We talked about this at the beginning, right? You need to literally say this contact. And again, this is going back to deal level reporting off of what events actually drove that lead, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's back to an organizational level. We've got a feature coming out for our team, for our clients in simple events that will say, what's your look back window? So if a deal's created, I want to look back 45 days. Did they join any event? I automatically associate that marketing event to that deal, right? If your look back window is 6 months, okay, cool. Put in 180 days, whatever that may be. And it doesn't have to be a fancy property. It can be a copy and paste, right? That your sales teams know how to ask, what event did you come from? Or what was the last event you attended at this moment if you're not using either of our apps, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, we use a workflow action for this that like runs on deals. So like you can choose like, oh, I only want to care about attribution for my deal when it gets to a certain stage, or right when it's created, or every time a new contact is added. Like you have full control over like when it runs this. But what we'll do is we'll go look at contacts, and then we'll go look at those events that contacts have gone to. So, right. So if they have like a registrant record for a webinar, right? Or they were captured as a lead as a trade show, or they attended a specific event, whatever it may be, right? We'll go get all those events, and then we'll look at whatever other parameters you gave, most recent event, first event, all events, how far back in time could it have taken place, all this kind of stuff, and then just auto associates it. So like we do the attribution without your team having to like get involved or like think about it, because like the last thing marketers want to do is go chase down salespeople and be like, hey, did any of these deals come from this event we did? And the salesperson goes, no, that came from my hard work, right? And like they refuse to do it. And like this is the story that I hear from everybody. And we get it, salespeople, you're working so hard. We understand.
And you should work hard, okay?
Hard, and you should work very hard. But you got to remember, sometimes your marketing team is kind of teeing it up with a sick webinar or a trade show that they set you up for, right? But again, fighting for that attribution inside of your CRM is a battle that a lot of these teams that don't communicate well deal with all the time. And it's very awkward to ask. It's very awkward to collaborate, right? And a lot of people just don't understand the nuances of like what attribution even means inside of HubSpot, right? So it's nice when you can automate it, but unless you have a really good data structure and it's properly represented, like a marketing event, like the event is a thing, or like a custom object, it is a thing that we can look at and point to and attribute something to, right? It's really difficult to do out of the box, you know? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Any of you watching us, if you have worked already with Harvest ROI on your HubSpot implementation, you know that like our first tier of our RevOps hierarchy of needs is data architecture. These conversations are had at the very beginning for every function of your business, but especially for event data. We talk about that and figure out what's the best structure for you, and make sure that that data structure is available for when you start running events. You're feeding those timeline events into it. I wanted to kind of throw a little wrench into this. I know you're both like enthusiasts about HubSpot and event management in HubSpot, but I kind of want to shift a little bit since you see a lot of event data being managed. What are some interesting trends that are happening in the event space that you could, share with us, like people who don't have access to that kind of data?
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much about like raw data. All I know is that like AI is super cool, but it's making everything like also super cringe at the same time. And like events are going to be the last pure frontier of marketing, right? Which is like why I love being in this. I'm not even like a big events guy, right? I'm just like super excited to be able to solve this problem for people who like, I just, a lot of this app is a trauma response from my days as an implementation specialist. Just
no,
like
it's honestly, that's why.
You get it, right? Like you felt the pain so much. You're like, oh, we gotta fix it, right? But I think like events are one, they're so back, right? They went away a little bit because of COVID, that whole thing, right? But like in the stage where like now when you go on the internet and you're like, I don't even know what's real anymore, or if I'm talking to a real person, or if I'm, if this messaging sent to me is genuine, right? Going to an event and touching grass with your fellow human beings is so back, right? So if you've divested from events, I'd recommend that you invest back into events because it's the last like real form of marketing we really have these days.
It's funny you say that, because some of the data that I have is you can sort of tell that we're still coming out of the COVID realm because a lot of the European countries that use simple events, we're running in-person events, while the majority of North America, specifically US, was running webinars or virtual events. It's extremely and I'm now seeing this trend of more and more people are now running in-person events, because I don't know if I don't have the data, so this is just my 2 cents. If it's vibes
too, so it's
I'm not sponsored by anybody. I guess I'm sponsored by Simple Events. But no, like it's interesting to see, because more and more people in the UK have run, and they're blowing up the in-person event structure and doing all these things, which is awesome. And then here in the US, it's like, hey, let's just keep doing virtual. And we're like, yeah, but I'm getting tired of virtual. Nothing wrong with this. I love this format. This is a different format than just one business showing up and running a webinar, right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of HubSpot user groups, which are great. If you're not in one in your area, join one. Some of those do virtual and in person, but it's a great way to sort of just have an honest conversation, because how can we all, everybody here, not video, but everybody on the live, we can't have an honest conversation. We can't
have a two-way conversation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a one-way, right?
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. And I would say, honestly, since the start of the year, we've seen a lot more registrations through the roof. Nothing's changed. A lot more people are willing at the start of the year. And I think, honestly, by the end of the year, they're getting fizzled out of doing all the events. Going back to Max's company that said they run 1,000 events, trade shows. That's crazy. But again, you need that level of organization. And honestly, to really make your event successful, first plan your organization. How are we going to run it? How are we going to measure it? How are we going to make it successful? Right.
Yeah. I think it's also something you said is like, webinars are also cool for like experimenting with different types of events. Like you could have events that start as webinars and then move to in-person stuff once the concept calls for it or it's popular enough. Right. So like, and I also I think I can also understand like it's easy to do webinars, right? They're lightweight, low risk. You can make them super targeted. Right. It's not.
And you can reuse them, right?
Yeah. You can reuse them for content, right? Like there's a lot of value in doing them. So I can see, especially since we're in the age of clip farming where people like to just like, oh, take that webinar, shift, like, send it over to an AI, let it cook up a bunch of clips for me.
What's AI?
Right. Oh God.
On that note,
what I will say is as soon as you start getting on webinars and you don't see real life human flesh faces, you see some like, avatar giving it, that's when webinars are actually cooked. All right. And we should go to the in-person stuff completely. Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
On that note, thank you for everyone who's joined us. Thank you, Max and Justin, for being here. This was super helpful and super fun catching up with you as well. If anybody is interested in checking out Happily or Simple Events, here are their emails. And if you need help implementing them with a holistic approach to your HubSpot portal, we're happy to have a chat. Thank you again, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of your day.